A very good morning to the Honorable Judge, teacher and fellow students. On this lucky day, I would like to review a book that I have read entitled The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain and illustrated by Katie Penman. It's actually my favorite book and I have read it many times. First of all, let's get to know a little bit of the original writer of this book, Mark Twain. Mark Twain was a famous American writer who lived over 100 years ago. He was known as a writer who wrote things based on his first-hand experience. Besides, he was lauded as the greatest humorist the United States has produced, and some call him the father of American literature. There were many books that have been written by him, but his most famous novel included The Adventure of Tom Sawyer and Adventure of Huckleberry Finn, which are based on his boyhood experience in Missouri. As for The Prince and the Pauper, it was actually written prior to The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn in 1882. As for the illustrator of this book, Katie Penman, she is an art and design lecturer who has illustrated a number of books for children due to her passion and love of teaching. She was also awarded with a number of awards, and her book was highly recommended due to its creative illustration for children's book. Well, that's a little bit of the writer and illustrator of this book. Now, let's move on to the story, The Prince and the Pauper. This story was set further back in the past in 1547. The story is about the tale of two boys, a prince and a beggar who trade clothing, and as a result, they trade life as well. The prince's name was Edward, whereas the beggar's name is Tom Canty. As both of them agreed to switch clothing, Tom lived as the prince and in the palace and experienced lots of dangerous things. In it, Edward, who is the true prince, was mistook as a beggar by the soldier and forced to wander in awful court. He has to live as Tom Canty and experience a poor life as beggar and confront Tom's great father. Edward tried to explain to the people around him that he is the Prince of Wales, but due to his appearance, none believed in him. Hence, both of them experienced different situations in life. Then, one day, the king died. Tom, who acted like a prince, has to be the new king. Edward realized that he is the true heir of the throne and he wanted to take his throne back, whereas Tom was afraid because he knew that he is not a prince. On the coronation day, Edward declared that he is the true king, but none believed in him. But Tom, who was there, emphasized to the crowd that Edward is the true king. Then Edward asked the servant to take the great seal to prove that he is the true king. As soon as the servant arrived at the great seal, the royals and crowd believed that Edward is the true king and they tried to strip Tom. However, Edward stopped the guard and told them not to touch Tom. Tom was happy. He knelt and kissed the king. Edward told the crowd his experience living as a poor boy and how much he wanted to be friends with the poor. He decided to let Tom and his family to live in the palace except for his birth father. That is the end of the story. Well, there is a lesson that could be learned from the story. Both boys learned over the course of their adventures is that poverty and royalty each come with their own advantage and disadvantage. Though they both originally envy the life of the other, they come to appreciate the thing in their own life that they have taken for granted. So, as a human, we have to learn to appreciate things around us, for example, our family and friends. We need to learn how important small things are in our life and be grateful with what we have. I am highly recommending this book to be read. I really like it. One of the reasons is the story itself is on the adventure of two boys experience different lives as they switch clothing. And another reason is the way the story illustrates. As you can see, Each page in the book came up with colorful illustrations that will not make the reader feel bored. Besides, the pictures are so clear and could help readers to understand the story easily. It is very good and highly recommended. That is all I have to say about this book. Thank you for listening to my review.